Welcome back to Bleach Boys. Hitting it up again. We're doing the 9 through 12, which is, we really have one more episode left after this. And then it's back to Cour 2.
Let's go.
It'll be officially time, which starts the first week of July, I believe. So it's coming up real quick.
Yeah, they're premiering Anime Expo, right?
I don't know about that. I don't think so. I've not seen anything about it, and I went through all the panels, and I kind of was taking a look at like what's the best panels to go look and see. The Bleach one is not in the main events hall this year.
I saw that. For some reason, that's kind of a downgrade.
Yeah, so I would imagine that they're not premiering it this year. I assume it's just going to come out regularly on streaming, whatever.
On Hulu.
I guess they're not going to do an event,
us,
but it would seem weird that they're not showing it. Maybe they'll show. I'm sure they'll show some clips from it, but I don't think they're premiering the whole episode.
Oh, that's kind of lame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if a little bit of that is they just don't want to spoil anything or whatever it is, but I have not seen anything about it. Because last year, I think they made a really big deal about Bleach being there and like showing all this stuff. And even then, it was the first time the trailer was announced, so they didn't put anything. So who knows?
I get you. And we already got the trailer.
Yeah. It's already too. I feel like it's too close.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
They're not going to do a premiere and have it be right around the corner. Anyways, kicking it off, episodes 9 through 12. We're just going to call this the Everything But the Rain portion of the series because that's pretty much where we're headed almost immediately. But let's kick it off with episode 9. First thing, Kurosaki gets to be head captain instantly. Gets a letter. It's unanimously decided, I suppose. Nobody else gets a choice, which leads me to believe, I'm not holding my mic, that Central 46, I guess, decides all the head captains. That's their responsibility.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Was their choice for Kurosaki just based off seniority?
Seniority, he's also kind of the whole saying, the person that should lead is the guy that doesn't want it. He clearly does not want to be head captain.
Okay.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's fair.
I remember him like signing the note and saying, was it, I'm sorry, now this might be the last time we see each other.
Yeah, because he didn't know he could convince them to let her go over with him.
I know, he took two captains
cool.
or vice captains.
That's
I was like,
cool.
oh my God, dude.
Yeah. And then I guess like, I just had like a couple of questions about the whole thing because it's like, I guess they're not picking Byakuya because he's out of action, right? And then Kurosaki is just the next best pick, but Ukitake the whole way through is just MIA also. But I mean,
he's always dying.
Yeah, we know why, but
yeah.
He's busy dying.
Yeah,
exactly.
There were a couple of picks where they could have gone, but I think when you think about it, like with the people who are left and able and ready, Kurosaki, unfortunately, is the only choice.
Could you imagine Mayuri being the one?
They never in a million years would they make Mayuri the leader of the Soul Society. Never in a million years. He could outlast everybody, and they would just disband.
Yeah,
like, forget it.
Would Mayuri in that office?
No, he wouldn't.
Nah.
He would hate it.
Yeah, he would just keep the research. He would be like, yeah, this is the new one. You know how like some government elected officials, they have a government like a governor house that a lot of them stay in. It's a California thing also.
Yeah.
But a lot of the governors will be like, I'm not going to stay in that ragtag house, and they'll go to a fucking mansion somewhere.
Well, I'm going to go to my own place.
Yeah, exactly. That's what Mayuri would do. Like, no, I'm not going to uphold tradition. No, thank you. It's like, oh, you catch me over here.
He's busy doing weird shit. He's got no time for politics.
Exactly. And there's nothing weird about just having a nice little old Japanese-style room. That's lame.
True. Doesn't even have a bed.
All right, then we go straight up to Squad Zero where we see Ichigo get absolutely fucking decked across the spa. I wrote a lot of quotes for this time because I feel like a lot of that stuff is just hitting key points here. And that's where he says, well, you would have died had you not been healed, so I guess you're good to go. Renji comes staggering over because, of course, the boys are back together.
Yeah.
And Renji wants to go also, and he's able to withstand the punch, which I thought was pretty impressive.
Crazy, yeah.
I was like, all right, Renji. He's like, I thought he too was going to go fucking flying, and it was like, nah, like sit back in your seat, And no, he withstood the punch.
He was in pain, but, he's grown.
Yeah, and
the boy's
he was already injured. So I was mega impressed with Renji. And then he, of course, gets the okay to go with Ichigo as well. I did like the part. We learned the two names of the guys that were helping. I don't know if anything comes into play ever again, but Kazuo and Kazuhiro are the two that are kind of holding Ichigo underwater.
Yeah, and they're wearing the weird bathing suits.
Yes, and they have to wear special suits to protect their bodies, or else the spa would erode their bodies and make them rupture. Which I was like, all right. I mean, I guess maybe it overheals you, I suppose. It kind of like fucks with the spiritual suppression, the reishi inside of you.
Or it's too hot and just burns you alive.
That's what I thought. Dude, when they took the stuff off first originally, they were bright red. I was like,
and I was like,
is it just supposed to be like super, super hot or something? And they're like, no.
They explained it, and I'm like, oh, no.
It'll make you fucking explode. Then we learned that Ichigo fucked up Tenjiro's fist, and I was like, damn.
Yeah,
Like,
he had to shove his hand back in the little healing thing.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, dude.
And I like the part that you're talking about. It's like, oh yeah, he used to be called Lightning Fast Tenjiro, and he's like, but still Ichigo was able to react and attack. It's like, damn.
I do love that he goes, I haven't lost my touch. Cuts right back to him getting behind Soifon. And
yeah.
I was
yeah,
like,
they
damn,
know Soifon's
guy.
a joke. Yeah, it's like, I was able to do it on Soifon. It's fine. It's whatever. And then he also kind of mentions he sees why the Soul King is so into Ichigo. And I was
Yeah,
like,
he does mention that, and I think I was confused, but then I think it does cut to the Soul King opening his eyes or something.
I don't think it showed anything for the Soul King. I think he just literally is just mentioning, like, I understand now why, but it's like, do we ever get a payoff on why the Soul King is into Ichigo? Just aside from the fact that I guess he's just unique.
I don't remember.
Okay, solid answer. Then we go back to all of the Central 46 juice with Kyoraku and all of them stuff. He's telling them that his second notion, after deciding that he's going to get 2 lieutenants, is he wants to teach Kenpachi Zaraki's Zanjutsu. And I wanted to Google what the fuck that was, and I just forgot. I just totally forgot to Google what that was.
I remember hearing it too and be like, is that like mastering your
'cause
sword? I don't know.
He even says like after that it was like a ploy, like he was pretending that was what he was gonna do. And I was like, well, what the fuck is Zanjutsu then?
Well, I think also Central 46 says, well, remember when they were teaching him kendo and we had to
Yes.
stop that immediately.
In one day,
Yeah.
they stopped. They urged Yamamoto to stop teaching him in one day, and I was like, oh shit!
I'm surprised the old man listened.
Yeah, but he is a man of tradition and notion. I'm sure Central 46, when he was the roaming band of mercenaries, that was not a thing.
Yeah.
So he set that up. So he probably would be the most loyal to be like, okay, Central 46 is saying it. I'll reel back. It's my checks and balances. It's his checks.
I'm going to go back to Emperor Augustus on that.
Okay, go ahead.
So basically, when you say emperor, what he really was just a guy that held a bunch of different titles to so he could say, I'm not the one in charge. I just have a lot of offices. But I definitely totally just answer to the Senate.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's Yama. That's Yama because he really like the royal families and stuff. Fuck him. But it's like, yeah, Central 46. Yeah, he's got to bend the knee, Central 46, and that's when we see the introduction of Yachiru Unohana with her scary face coming out of the fucking corner.
I'm like, just keep her pretty, man. She's kind of scary. She definitely is scary.
The transition from her regular face to like the scary one is like, damn.
Yeah, and she's always got like that looking down look on you all the time. So I'm like, oh, damn, they really changed the perspective on that.
Yeah, they did a great job with that. Then we go back to the Soul Palace where we find out that Cone is hidden inside of Ichigo's jacket the whole time.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, which I have a lot of questions about this that I'm going to ask in just a second here. So Cone's in the Soul Palace, which proves my theory from last time that we spoke where you could just hitch a ride with one of the people that go into the Soul Palace if you see him. Mm-hmm. You literally just grab him and go up. Because he was not invited by the Soul King unless the Soul King, I guess, secretly invited him.
I highly doubt that.
But then, here comes my question. Can Urahara see everything that's happening up there then? Like, is he full on getting the tour and the introduction and how that stuff happens in all the Soul Palace?
I mean, he has to because he has to know where shit happens later to come up and help.
Yeah, and then he had the video thing that popped up from Cone before he went up there. So he's already shown he has some sort of video two-way communicator that you can see stuff, So I would imagine he's at least getting all that data from up there, which
Cone's eyes are the camera.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. And then they go to Kirio, which is the larger / skinny one that we find out later. And she explains that each one of them is up there because they created something. She created Gikon, which is the temporary souls which were used as like part of the soul candy base and things like that. So she created all of that, which now the more you know, because I didn't fucking know that. I didn't know that was a thing. And I was like, oh, okay. And I think everybody knows the next one is we get Oetsu, who created the Zanpakuto.
I love Oetsu.
I think everybody knows he created the Zanpakuto, which I did not know how he created the Zanpakuto. I always thought when he was saying that, talking about that, they explained in the manga, in one ear, out the other. But when I watched the anime, I was like, that makes so much sense. I thought he was handcrafting all the Zanpakuto. Like, he was just like
giving people, here's Zabimaru.
Like, they finally reached it. I don't know. Because I guess, I mean, in my monkey brain, I just assume you get a Zanpakuto, you have Shikai. I just assumed that was 1-1. Like, that's just how it fucking goes.
It's like whatever the draw is, here's yours.
Yeah, I did not realize it's like start off with a base bitch sword, and everybody gets the same base bitch sword. And then after you imprint on it, basically, fucking Twilight terms, then it goes Shikai, and then, further Bankai.
Does that mean you can further develop your Shikai every single time? I mean, Ichigo's changes.
I would assume that's the case because all Oetsu does is just create the base. I forget what the name of it is. We don't find out until way later. But he creates the base sword, and then he doesn't do anything else.
Yeah.
Which I was like, okay, I mean, I guess cool. He kind of creates like he created the evolving sword. Is basically what he created.
The thing that Bleach is known for.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. But he did not create. I feel like he didn't create Zanpakuto proper. He created whatever this one that starts with an A is, the Aoshi or whatever the fuck it is.
Asauchi.
Asauchi, thank you.
Okay. Then we go back to the Central Underground where we find out they are heading to the lowest level, the Muken, to have their duel. And it's closed off and infinitely large. And Unohana makes some sort of a fucking quip about how, like, oh, I feel like it'd be perfect for you since you have no Zanpakuto. It's like, all right. Like, what
Loser.
the fuck? And then I don't know if it was just maybe the art style, but when Unohana was first standing there, her blade looked very curved.
It was super curved.
Yeah. Almost like a full U curved. I was like, what the fuck? But then as they were fighting, it just looked like a regular sword to me. I mean, I don't know.
It's always curved.
Never, ever have I noticed that it's always been curved.
Yeah, because I remember even when she unsheathes it, it was straight, but then that could have been just not Shikai, right?
Yeah.
And isn't Muken where Aizen is?
Yes, Aizen is like 6 feet away just watching the whole thing, I guess.
Okay, because I was just like, wait a minute.
He's like, all right, cool. It's like, this
He's like,
is sick.
finally, something to watch.
So then I guess this part of the point with Muken is that it's infinite. So it's like, it's infinitely large. It's dark as fuck, so you can't find anything in there, even if you're looking for it. So the fact that Yuha Baha found Aizen is even more impressive.
Yeah. I also just, in my brain, I wish Aizen was the one doing the commentary.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah. Or like, he's going through his blacking out phase, and Aizen's like, dog, you've died fucking 100 times. Like, try something else. And he's like, oh, okay, thank you.
And knowing Aizen,
Sometimes the hardest.
knowing Aizen, his passive aggressive commentary would be the best thing ever.
Then Unohana just throws out all kinds of insults here. She says that she likes Kenpachi when he's quiet because the scar on her begins to ache whenever he speaks. And I was like, okay, all right, dig it, interesting. And that she was known as, this is a flashback moment, but she was known as the strongest in history. She was the most notorious criminal in the history of Soul Society, which is impressive, seeing as how the original band is criminals, and she's the most notorious of them all. It's like, oh.
How did she not age when Yamamoto did?
Healing.
Is it just a healing?
Healing.
Okay. She does explain it. She straight up says that.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, yeah. She says that. I have that written down as a quote. And then Kyoraku is kind of thinking to himself in his study. He's like, yeah, hey, sorry I said Zanjutsu, but, I know once you guys cross blades, one of you is going to have to die. And it's like, oh, good. You just send, like, he was talking all this smack about how they got to teach Kenpachi because the Soul Society's not going to be able to survive. And then he sentences one of his best captains to death.
Yep.
Like, the fuck, that's the worst thing. And then we see that Unohana and all of her viciousness going back to her roots. She left a note for Isane still, which I thought was very nice.
I thought that was touching because Isane's crying at the end of that.
Yeah, and Kenpachi left his eye patch to Yachiru, which I was like, fucking finally, where the fuck was she? She's never shown anywhere, but she finally sees that, it's cool. It's all right. It's cool.
She came back from the lieutenant's meeting.
Yeah, it was a long walk.
Yeah.
Long walk. And then we get to see that Kenpachi admired Unohana a lot. And he's like, yeah, you changed from the person. And Unohana ends up throwing like a dagger at Kenpachi's shoulder, and Kenpachi in classic fashion is upset. That is like,
he's like, that's cheating.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're using that cheap trick, and she 180 Uno reverse cards. It's like, oh, well, last time we fought, I didn't have the leeway to do all those cheap tricks, and he was like, oh, what the fuck? He's like, you call me weak, dog? A couple more quotes from that. We get Kenpachi. He starts doing his blacking out thing. And he goes, the first time that he did it, because he really thought he was about to fucking die. He says, fighting for the first time, for the first time, I felt fear. I felt joy in battle, and I wanted to fight just like you. And then he starts freaking out, listening like, you're saying I'm going to die here? And he starts crying, and then he gets stabbed right through the neck.
I thought that was pretty gnarly.
Damn.
I was like, whew.
Brutal. Really brutal.
I remember reading that and being like, holy shit, our boy just got stabbed.
Yeah, really crazy. But that's when we see the first blackout moment, is where he gets stabbed, cuts back, and he's like, what the fuck? Like, what am I still doing here? And then Unohana starts thinking about how each time Zaraki's on the verge of death, he gets stronger. And she keeps referring it to as this flaw that basically she inflicted upon him as one of her greatest sins. And that's the end, literally the end of episode 9. We flew through that. There was a lot of action, a lot of fighting in that one. We'll make up for all the notes I took on the back end here because, everything but the rain, there's a lot of notes to take on that. But that's episode 9. Pythes, did we miss anything?
Okay, yeah. So when you guys talk about the Zanjitsu thing, from what I remembered, the translation was just he tells them, I'm going to teach Kenpachi Zaraki how to kill.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So why? I guess I mean I imagine you don't know this question, but why did they change it to Zanjutsu?
Because it's fancy.
All right, pause. Hello, everybody. Editor Sam here. Just doing some editing, and I thought I would Google what Zanjutsu means. It means cutting techniques, and it's the most used form of combat among Soul Reapers and substitute Soul Reapers. It's the fighting style for the Zanpakuto, i.e., just basic sword fighting, and it's one of the 4 fundamental combat styles of the Shinigami, collectively known as the Zankin Soki. That is from both the Bleach fanfiction fandom wiki and the Naruto and Bleach wiki, which the more you know that those two have a combined wiki. All right, back to the podcast.
Let's see. I really liked that when Korinji's looking all serious, he just has a bath towel just draped over his pompadour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the Central 46 say we had to stop Kenpachi from being trained by Yama because that shit was crazy. And they say we, as in it was us. But the Central 46 that did that would have been the guys that were killed by Aizen.
Oh, that's totally
yeah.
true. So it's like none of the members that are on the council right now were around for that decision. They're just like, yeah, in our ledger right here, last time we voted on this, and Kuraka could be like, actually, that was the people that died last time that we weren't strong enough. Thank you.
I wish he said that, and then they're like, "Oh, you're right. Teach him what he needs to
Yeah,
know."
that would have been a good clapback moment. It's like, well, actually, none of you were here to vote on that, so thank you.
Fuck you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I forget, is this the episode where Kiryu has the cooking scene?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
Okay, have either of you ever played Monster Hunter?
I have. I played Monster
I've
Hunter
seen
World.
tons of it, but I haven't played it.
Okay, so that just gave me massive flashes of every time you go out to hunt, you have the cats cook you dinner.
Yep. 100%.
That's fucking funny.
That shit's great. So Kiryu mentioned the million-year history of the Soul Society. And I was like, that's some can't fear your own world lore. I'll talk about that.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
So you went on the Ichigo Squad Zero created something, and they're like, okay, Oetsu created the Zanpakuto, Kiryu did the Soul thing, and what's his name? The older guy?
Ichibe?
That's his name. He's the guy that named all the stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then the question was, what did Senjo Maru make? The answer was she made the Shihakusho.
Okay, you're gonna have to refresh. So I obviously know what the Shihak show is, but for the viewers' purposes, what is the Shihak show?
It's the black robe that all the Soul Reapers wear.
Got it. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I mean,
So here's my
obviously that's the.
question.
Yeah, come on, guys.
I even went on the wiki because I couldn't figure it out. What does the Shihakusho do? And the question is, when you lose your power, it turns white, and that's about it.
So she made color changing robes. Is what she made.
I even put like in all caps, why is this important?
They just needed to fill up the spot. You know,
Yeah.
she's cool as fuck.
They didn't want any fakers coming into the Soul Society
Yep.
acting like they had power, so they had to have a color changing robe to view if it was correct.
I mean, it's a cool uniform, but what the fuck is the
Wait.
point? What does it do?
So, is it only colored black if you have Soul Reaper powers, or if it's like spiritual pressure wise?
From what I could tell, like they're like the only way we could tell was when Rukia gives Ichigo her powers and they're gone. It turned white. That's about it.
Ah, okay. Well, Orihime's wearing one
Yeah,
during the Soul Society arc.
yeah. She
True.
wonder you have him, but then again, they have powers.
True.
All right, it's got some sort of internal technology to tell if you
It's
have
all about
powers.
the inside.
Period.
Theirs is like a pass. It's like a little
Mhm.
like, here you go.
Yeah.
Here's a little button.
Mhm.
Let them walk around.
Maybe it takes like how long did it take for Rukia's to turn white? Maybe it takes like a month for it to finally recognize. You know.
I can't imagine she'd be called up to Squad Zero if there was that long of a delay. So here's on the lighting of this scene. So we've seen a bunch of fights in this series so far, and usually when the animation goes crazy, the lighting also goes crazy. Think of Yama's fire, the Quincy
Mhm.
Rose. This is shot like a black and white samurai fight.
It is actually.
Shot
And it's like a darkish red color, and then they're both lit up almost in black and gray.
They're almost completely black and gray. We'll see next episode there's some color, but they only add the one
Mhm.
extra color. They did a good job making this fight feel different than the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just wanted to go, shout out to Unohana for talking the maddest shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was saying I almost wrote all quotes when I was taking my notes because it's just like shit talking on every end of everything. Even like with Ichigo and Squad Zero, his dad and Ichigo's like, it's just shit talking all the way across the board.
Yup.
All right, now on to episode 10.
Yeah, episode 10. We're moving on. So kicking it off with a flashback where the day they originally fought Zaraki. Zaraki is thinking about the only time he's ever blacked out like he's been doing right now was the very first day that they fought. I just want to take a pause here for all the people at home. I wrote a little note here. I tried watching the opening again and still didn't like it.
Yeah.
So
I hate it.
just wanted to touch base on that. And I also added here, not only do they spoil Udio, which we've already talked about, but they also showed the Squad Zero in the opening.
Yeah, they do.
I was like, what the fuck? Like, who okayed that? Like, wait, with so many spoilers.
You've all read the manga.
Yeah, I guess that's what they
Yeah,
were going
that's
for. It
true.
was like, normally we'll be a little coy. We'll show some fights that aren't going to happen. It was like, nah, fuck it. This thing's been out for 10 years. Y'all fucking seen it already.
Those who know.
We go to the full flashback now where Unohana is basically going around and trying to find people who are stronger than her. And Rando McGee comes up and is like, yeah, it's like, hey, we're not going to find anybody. And it's like, she's like, I could tell, or he said that he could tell that she was out here looking for somebody strong because of the pile of bodies next to her. And she's like, wait, what? When did those piles
How
of
did she
bodies
not
get-"
notice a
Thank
pile
you,
of bodies?
Jose. That's what this whole setup was
I was just
for.
like,
How does she not
Jesus.
notice that? That is ridiculous.
I did see that, and I'm like, I would have noticed that.
Yeah, like how can you be a captain and have fucking straight, narrow eyes and not see anything? That is crazy. No peripheral vision.
It's
for
the
Unohana.
tunnel vision. She was just ready to kill.
Zaraki jumps at Unohana, right? And this is where we get a little bit of backstory to what she thinks her greatest sin is. Basically, she believes that ever since they fought for the very first time, Zaraki placed shackles on himself. And she goes into more detail on that later. So we go back to the current time. Zaraki keeps blacking out, but he keeps mentioning that he's feeling every time he blacks out, he's fully restored, like good to go. And he's like, what the fuck is happening? Which I don't understand. She says later that basically she is killing him and then healing him back to full and they continue the fight. But is she like posing him back up before he gets up? Like how does he keep ending up in the same spot?
I'm imagining
I thought it was.
she's high speed healing him.
Okay.
See, I
So
thought it
he's
was
kind-
her sword that it was like fixing him or something.
She never mentioned anything about her sword doing jack shit. She never explained her powers, period. The only time she mentioned about doing anything was the fact that she said she is killing Zaraki and then healing him back. So what Pyathes was saying makes sense. If maybe it's like a insta-kill, insta-heal. And she's just
okay.
that fucking good. She's like, kill, boom, and then is immediately back.
Like the one time we see her Shikai in like the old series, it's that weird manta ray thing, and that
Yeah.
does heal people. So maybe she can use that without releasing the monster thing.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I mean, makes sense.
That would make sense, I suppose. And so we find out that Zaraki is basically subconsciously suppressing his power to match his opponent, is what we learn later, where she talks about how each fight that he's been into with Noyatora and with Ichigo and so on and so forth, he has purposely been suppressing his power just enough so he can feel that like verge of death, like the same joy that he
He's
had when he
edging
fought
himself.
Unohana.
Oh
Yeah,
my
he's edging
God.
himself. But just barely edging himself and then finishing at the end,
Yep.
because that way he can still feel the joy of like, oh my God, I'm gonna die, and then
I killed you.
he wants the initial joy he felt when he was a child. And she talks about here that Unohana, originally when they first met, so Zaraki jumped at her, stabbed her, like right in the fucking chest. That's where she got that scar from.
As a kid.
And she says that Unohana, in her peak back then in Captain, was weaker than Kid Zaraki.
Damn.
But in the middle of that fight, he began suppressing himself, like straight then and there, because he wanted it to go on longer. He wanted to continue the fight. And that's the only reason that she won, was because he kept suppressing himself so much till eventually she was stronger and then she took him out.
That's just crazy.
Yeah, and so now she's talking about how each time that she is basically taking him near death to, quote, kill him, he's breaking some of those shackles. So she doesn't care how many times she does it, 100 times, whatever, so much, she's going to keep doing it until he breaks every single shackle, and, that's why they keep going at it. And this is when Unohana talks about how the two of them kind of parallel each other, except they took two different paths, where Kenpachi learned the ability to suppress himself so that he can enjoy the battle for eternity, and she learned the ability to heal herself so she too can enjoy the battle for eternity. And that's when we eventually see the Bankai of Unohana, which question mark, it shoots blood, I suppose. That's...
I thought the release of it is cool though, where she like puts her hand on the sword and
Yeah,
just
it
kind of
was
like
fucking
drags
cool.
it across.
And I like the whole fight, how you can kind of like, especially after they do the initial flashbacks, you can see Kenpachi actively starting to get better. Like he's like,
Yeah.
okay, I scratched her, okay, I hit her, okay, this, and then even to the point where she releases Bankai, he's moving fast.
Yes, he
he's
is.
going
Fucking
hella fast.
beast mode.
Yes, even with the final slash, he's like boom, and she's like, okay, nice, like he
He's ready.
fucking got it. And I wrote down one of the final quotes that I thought was very nice. She said, "Sayonara, the one man in the world who brought me joy." And
I
was
know.
dude.
And then Kenpachi catches her, and he's like,
Yes.
"No!" He's like,
and he
"Don't
starts getting
die!"
sad.
Yeah.
Like, no, like, please don't die. And she just like, well, I'm going now. It's like, I gave you
She's
everything.
like, I can finally die happy.
Yeah, she said something along the lines like, I gave you everything I had, so I could go now. Bye.
Yep.
And I was like, all right. I mean, I guess that's cool.
Wish you'd stuck around. Just saying.
Yeah,
I
I
know.
mean, surely it would have been nice to keep her. Like I get. Okay, Unohana is not as strong as Zaraki Kenpachi. That's been drilled into our head this whole fight.
She's powerful
but
as
how
fuck.
good would it to
Yeah.
be to have a second runner-up to Kenpachi? Like, that would be pretty useful. I don't get why she has to die.
Imagine them tag teaming somebody.
Yes,
that would've
like
been so
seriously, for
badass.
sure. Like the old past sensei and the younger disciple who's just, fucking wrecking shit up. It would have been so good. And right after she dies, though, we do hear Zaraki Zanpakuto's voice, which I thought was...
I thought it was cool. And then
Yeah,
you hear
yeah.
oh, you can hear me now.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. And you don't find out till later, until they're talking with Oetsu, that he does mention that even Zaraki was able to get a Zanpakuto because he stole a base form one off
Yeah.
of a Shinigami.
He took it off of somebody and then just imprinted on
So
it.
he didn't steal a Zanpakuto proper. He stole the Ayushi, whatever the fuck it's called. Which I was like, okay, I like the filling in and the it makes sense. They did a good job of wrapping that all in a nice little bow and calling it.
Now explain Tosin.
Yeah, we can. We only one mystery can be solved at a time here.
Hey, was real quick on Tosin though? Is his voice actor different in Thousand Year Blood War?
Sounded different, but I couldn't tell.
Okay, cool. I was just making sure it wasn't me.
No comment. I have no idea. I was just like, yep, Tosin's there. It's like
Yep.
good to go, I suppose. And speaking of Oetsu, this is when we swap over and we meet Oetsu for the first time. We of course get I am #1 Zanpakuto creator. Like,
I love him, dude.
So good.
That's not how you grovel, guys. Makes him do handstands.
He's so good, dude. And like them being greeted by all the women, and they make him do the grovel. And I like where they're like kind of like, nah, I can't match the guys. I was like, well, you guys can go home.
Yeah,
it's like
true.
you guys can go back home. They're like, oh shit, we're sorry. And that's when we meet Mara, which I don't know if Mara is also a Zanpakuto. I
Yeah,
don't know if
I
we get
think
an
she is.
explanation on that.
They all are.
Yeah, then we find out all of the girls Zanpakuto, and let me see. They talk about how for Renji and Ichigo, Zanpakuto that don't get love, they break easily, and that's kind of what he alludes like. Yeah, you guys weren't taking good
Renji
care
breaks
of it.
all the
You know,
fucking
you guys
time.
are kind of being a piece of shit, and that's why it broke. And they talk about how they basically push him down into the real little Soul Palace part, which is filled with all of the Asauchi. Well, now that I have the names written in the thing, and they have to survive. And he's like, if you survive, I'll fucking build your sword for you. It'll be all good to go. And that's when we get the backstory of this, which we've been talking about all fucking episode, where Asauchi or Zanpakuto that are temporarily issued to the 6,000. We're going to speed run this because I figure we already know. They get them the moment they start the academy, and then they're issued when they become a Zanpakuto. So they're like kind of leased out for the academy. And if you graduate, get into a squad, then you get your official, like, this is yours. And then they say that every Soul Reaper basically eats and sleeps with theirs. And through continuous training, they imprint the essence of their soul into the Asauchi, and that's create their personalized Zanpakuto.
See, I would like to see a cute, funny little montage of everybody just sleeping
Yeah.
with their Zanpakutos, like bathing them.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
All
for
that super
sure.
simple stuff.
Like really taking care of it.
yeah,
and,
like being like,
having a
oh,
good
gotta polish you
time.
up, buddy.
And then they talk about like it imprints the essence of your soul onto the Zanpakuto, you know?
I thought that was badass.
Wouldn't you think? I guess they didn't know. But I mean, what a shocker. It would be like, oh my God, there's a traitor in the Soul Society who has the mystery Zanpakuto. Oh, fucking Aizen. But I guess he lied about what a Zanpakuto was originally.
Yep.
So he gets a pass, I suppose. But like once you see a Zanpakuto, it's like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. Like imagine you get betrayed. Oh, this is your real. That makes sense. I get it. I get it now. They end up coming back to Renji and Ichigo after they survive 71 hours and 48 minutes in the pit with all the Asauchi that are pissed at them. Renji gets the pass and Ichigo fails. Ichigo's like fucking exhausted on the ground, like can't get up anymore. And he said that Ichigo wasn't chosen by an Asauchi, is what the reasoning is. And basically Renji's the Soul Reaper, Ichigo's not. And that's more alluding to the stuff that Yuha was saying, like, oh, like, you know,
child
Yeah.
born in the dark.
you don't even know what you are. And he basically says Sangetsu can't be fixed anymore. And he says, can't be fixed. Rather, I'm not going to fix him for you.
Yeah.
Sorry. And he says he doesn't make fake Soul Reaper swords. And he tells him, Ichigo, you must learn what your roots are. And that's when he gets zipped out back to the Kurosaki clinic. And I was like, yay! And then, that's it. That's it. That's the end of episode 10. On to you, Pythes.
All right, so you said that's the end of the episode, right?
Yep.
So there
Well, there was a little bit more after, right?
was an after credit scene,
Yeah, yeah.
but Sam wouldn't know because he doesn't want
Nope.
credit.
You just skipped it.
Okay, now to be fair, there's after credit scenes in later ones, and I caught it. Okay, sometimes when I see the bar on the bottom and I see it's a long one, I'm like,
You're
oh,
like,
there's an
oh,
after
something
credit
there.
scene. There's
Fast
something.
forward.
But if it's just a small one, I'm gonna miss it every time.
Specifically in the dub, the after credit scene, Oetsu tells Ichigo, "Bye bye. Give my regards to everyone in Loserville."
Yeah, he does. It's
Oh,
funny.
okay, that's cool.
The music during Unohana's monologue sounded like Shinto chanting, which is really weird and different for the music in this show.
Yeah, like I said when we were talking about originally, like when the fight with Ichigo and Yuhabaha, this soundtrack has been fucking incredible, just all the way through. And I mean, Bleach soundtrack has always been good, always really, really good. I mean, speaking of, I've still not heard a single rendition of number 1, but I guess that's because Ichigo's been getting shit on this whole first.
That is true.
season.
We're gonna get it next.
Episode 1.
Yeah, episode 1 we got it for the little welcome back montage tour, and then nothing else.
I'm telling you, you're not going to hear it again until Ichigo zooms into the Soul Society and saves Kenpachi.
Oh, fucking a-hole. Okay.
Yup.
It's going to be awesome. I'm waiting for that scene more than anything else.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. But the return of Ichigo in 1,000 Year Blood War is going to be fucking a 10 out of 10 showstopper.
So,
OC boy, it's gonna be fantastic.
you know how when someone strong shows up and you get that little grain filter to show their, like, the spiritual
Yeah.
power?
Yeah.
I love that. That's fantastic.
Imagine if that syncs up with the first drum beats of number 1 happening.
Although, now let me say, in Everything But the Rain, there is a portion where Isshin releases his spiritual pressure. And I don't think they did the grain. I think they did an aura. They did
It
like
was-
a
it was
yellow, like
definitely an
Super
aura.
Saiyan aura. I don't think they did the brrrr.
But
He straight up he goes Super Saiyan. Yeah.
it looked cool, so I'm all right with it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it did look cool. And that's like the debate that's happening with One Piece a lot. I know we're a Bleach podcast, but we're going to pivot for a second. In Wano, they switched to auras.
Yeah.
And some people love it because it looks fucking cool, and it does, and the animation's insane. Other people are like, why the fuck are there auras in my One Piece? You know, I'm just saying, are they going to go back to doing that? Are we going to stick auras all the way
I think
through?
we'll still get like a mixture of both. I think
Think
is what
so?
it's gonna end up being.
Okay.
As long as I still get my spiritual pressure squiggle lines, we're good.
We'll see. I haven't seen any. I have not seen any so far.
There might have been some. I wasn't paying enough attention.
All right, well, I'll fucking wait and see.
All right, so
Let's go.
in comparison to what you said, I thought it was really clear what Unohana's Bankai does. So she hits him with the blade that shoots out blood, and it injures him, and it looks like it healed her.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
I did
Like-
not notice that. I did not see that. I did not get that. I didn't get any part. All from what I was seeing, she shoots blood. She makes blood appear. I assume she can control blood somehow. That's it.
So it's like a life stealer.
It seemed like it's the exact opposite of her Shikai, where her Shikai heals others. This one takes from others and heals her.
Okay, interesting. I like your theory better, so I'm gonna headcanon or you're supposedly shown in the show portion. So we'll say that's it.
Okay, I wrote Unohana's death is the complete opposite of Yamamoto's. His is ignoble, inglorious, happens instantly, and is sad and pathetic. Hers is really sad and takes place over the course of like a minute with Zaraki crying.
True. And I thought the fact was Zaraki crying was really sad, and even she, like when she's dying, it's like, oh, he's still just kind of like a boy, and I'm like,
Yeah, she's still.
"Aw."
Yeah, she liked him as a little kid. Still, I'm like, oh my God, Zaraki, my boy.
Oh, that scene is done so well. There's a shot where you get to see Kenpachi meeting the Kenpachi he kills, and I had to look up his name. He was Kenpachi Kiganjo. I don't know how that's supposed to happen because in the lore, the duel had to happen in front of over 200 division members for it to be considered a legal passing of the Kenpachi mantle.
Maybe that was not a thing before, but okay, I'm just having like a realization. Isn't somebody's backstory that they're like pissed off about Kenpachi? It's from the Mount Arc.
That was the bounty.
It's from the Mount Arc.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
It's from the Mount Arc. I was gonna say, dude, I'm so confused because I swear somebody was upset they were there watching the battle happen because that is the rules. The rules are it has to be in front of a whole bunch of people and it has to be a challenge.
Yeah. Another question I was wondering was how long ago was the flashback where she meets child Kenpachi? Because I'm pretty sure, unless I'm wrong, Kenpachi Zaraki is the 11th Kenpachi. And during the fight with Unohana, she was still Kenpachi. So who were like the 9 other losers that came and went over the span of like a couple hundred years?
Well, and it's like it's interesting to think also that at that moment, Unohana decided he is the Kenpachi. You know, like he's the one. But then what made her decide to be like, all right, I'm going to pass it on? It's like, no, that's not a rule of the Kenpachi. Like, did she pass it on and go, oh, by the way, second Kenpachi, here's the new rules? Like, how did that whole, I'm sure she has some leeway with Yamamoto where he could be like, all right, I'll swing it, you know, so on and so forth. But where
It's
did
just
that
a title at that
where
point.
did the rule come from?
I don't know, and I would love to read a book about that.
Yeah, it just kind of like, because that kind of rule, it just reminds me of like Star Wars and like the rule of two with the Sith, you know, where it's like, who drew the line? Like there was in Star Wars, they explain exactly how that happened in the rule of two and why they stick to that and so on and so forth. But like, where did this one come from? Why did it happen? Clearly, it wasn't a rule for Unohana. So how'd it go?
I mean, to be fair, who's going to tell her no?
True.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what I'm saying. She also has a lot of leeway with Yamamoto. So it's like, if she was just like, hey, maybe I'll pretend to die and I'll come back as somebody else. And he'd be like, okay.
Say, hey, I'm going to be a healer. I'm going to leave Squad 11 open. This is how the new captain's going to be chosen. Maybe that was just a deathmatch tournament and whoever won got to be the Kenpachi.
Possible. It would also be cool if maybe she went back and said, hey, tell them I got killed in battle elsewhere. You know?
Yeah, we need someone else
and
to step
like,
up.
now somebody else take it and I'll come back and I'll be somebody else.
I mean, in like Japanese history, people change their names all the time. It's really weird. It's really hard looking up shit about Hideyoshi because he has like 9 different names.
Well, there you go. Maybe it's not all that different. Like, she just showed up one day and she's like, nah, fuck it. I'm Unohana now. And they're like, okay.
I mean, because it's really
That makes sense, yeah.
all the people that knew who she was. Like, I think she was still Kenpachi when like Shunsui and Ukitake were around, because they are definitely scared of her.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh yeah, and by the way, the person that enforced the rule of 2 with Darth Bane, and no one could stop him because they were all dead.
Well, similar maybe process. She waited till it was just Yama and her left, and then they
She's
were like,
so now what?
So now I'm gonna swap. I'm gonna do a little swipperoo before we go in and recruit the other.
She
ones.
goes like, I'm tired of fighting right now. I'm gonna be a healer for a bit.
She did seem to enjoy being a healer, to be fair.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. She seemed like she never complained about it. She never said that was the bad thing. She just never felt the joy of fighting, which she replaced it with healing. So
it's like she settled.
yeah.
It's kind of nice. Let's see. Oh yeah, I just wrote Ichigo was gonna leave Oetsu hanging.
Yeah.
Yeah, he totally was.
He's coming off like a weirdo. I would have done the same thing too. Who knows?
That is a Sam move.
Oetsu is the best. I will fight you on this.
I mean, the best Squad Zero member, because that's a short competition.
Squad 0. Ichibe's pretty cool, at least lore wise.
I haven't got to meet the other Squad Zero ones yet, so I can't hold the contest.
This is true. Okay, so when we see the real Ho-Oh Den, that's just like a shack. You know the ocean overlooking that?
Yes.
That's where that evil sword from Can't Fear Your Own World is. It's hidden under
It's in there?
the ocean.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and watch it now. So
He doesn't remember the ocean.
I don't remember the ocean at all, mate.
It's literally right behind the little shack.
behind it.
Yeah.
And the last thing I brought up was not Unohana. Kenpachi is stealing away parts of himself to be weaker to enjoy his fights more.
Mhm.
And I compare that to, I got a friend who's really, really good at fighting games. But when he fights me and all our other friends, we are all terrible. So he goes out of his way to not use combos, to not use anything crazy, because he enjoys fighting us more that way.
No, Pythes, let me tell you. Have you ever played against Sam in anything? Man will not let you win.
Oh yeah, he kicked my ass at Smash once.
Yep.
I mean, I'm just doing my thing. I don't know what the problem is.
It's to the point where me and Danny have to team up and then make Sam rage quit.
Which is, I mean, I saw him rage quit that golf game. It's not hard to do.
That game was broken.
No.
That game was broken.
This was worse.
Oh really?
Me and Danny were hitting each other and then jumping off and being like, "Oh, Sam, you can't win because you didn't get enough kills."
That's a very Dark Souls-esque strategy.
Yep.
Yep.
It's
Sam.
very bullshit ass strategy.
Yep. He got really mad.
Hey, listen, man. You run through that graveyard, you get all the items, and you jump off the edge because the skeletons don't get to kill you if you jump off the edge. You didn't win.
garbage.
That's my note to episode 10. On to 11.
Yep. Episode 11.
Everything but the rain.
Oh,
Fucking
the goodness.
took forever.
We love everything but the rain. We go back to Oetsu at the start of this episode, and he explains that he knows the whereabouts of every single Asoichi that he's ever made, and that's where we get the little bit about Zaraki and killing the Soul Reaper who had the Asauchi on him, and so he's able to get it. And basically, he said that not a single Soul Reaper has awakened a Zanpakuto without an Asa. Am I saying it right? Asauchi?
Asauchi, that's how I say it.
Asauchi that he forged, and Ichigo has to figure out the whereabouts of his soul. So, and I want to pause right here. How the fuck did he get his original sword?
He got a copy, I guess, from Rukia. Maybe that was counted as Rukia's sword. It looks similar.
But then she has one. So did she then get a new one when she was rescued and she redid the whole process?
I'm guessing that his was just a lifeless copy.
Okay.
Looked like Rukia's sword, but it was bigger because of his spiritual pressure.
All right, we'll take that. And then Ichigo runs away from his poor dad, is what I wrote, and goes straight to Ikumi. Oh my god. Like, we love Ikumi. We love Ikumi.
Welcome back, big sister.
And yeah, she says that she feels like an older sister to Ichigo, and he's like ranting and raving. And
I like how she's takes him home. He's in the shower and whatever, doing his
nice.
thing.
She's a good person.
I like her a lot.
Just like a generally good person. And then I don't know about you guys, but like they're hanging out, they're talking, and whatever, and the doorbell rings. I immediately PTSD Tsukushima is gonna be at the door.
Dude, same. That's the first thing I thought of. I was like, holy shit.
I was like, dude, they have fucked that doorbell up. Like that is not okay, dude. I don't know how you go back after that. I'd have like my heartbeat skip if I was Ichigo.
Okay.
Not again.
Imagine a scenario where it is Tsukushima, and then he goes, Ichigo, what do you think is happening right now? And he wakes up and he's back in the Fullbring arc.
I'd be so mad. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Oh god. It would be like all those people. That's like the Naruto people who want Boruto to be an infinite Tsukiyomi. That's exactly what that situation is. It's like
I would be
scrap it, redo
fuck
it all,
Boruto.
back to Fullbring arc. That's all a trick. I'd be like, dude. First of all, Kubo, you put so much work into a joke. It's like, second of all, fuck you.
I feel like he would be okay with a joke like that.
Yeah,
I would
that'd be
I would respect
crazy.
the hell out of that if that joke was real.
People would be fucking pissed, dog. So instead of Tsukushima, we get Isshin appearing in his Soul Reaper outfit.
I thought that was badass.
And I thought that was really cool. They did a good job of like demonstrating how Ichigo immediately saw him, and Ikumi was like, "That's weird. Nobody's at the door." And I was like,
Yup.
"Ah, that's right, because she can't see. We're so used to everybody being able to see everyone."
Well, and then here's a side bit. Isn't Isshin hairy?
Yeah. He's very hairy.
He's not hairy at all in his what's it called?
10,000 Year Blood War form.
10,000 Year. Yeah.
He waxed Jose.
Hey man.
You got to Brazil.
It just caught me off guard because I remember him being a very hairy dude.
Yeah. And then I have, let's see, Ichigo made sure to say bye to Ikumi when he was leaving.
I thought that was
nice.
very
like, I
sweet.
thought he was just going to run out and kind of be an a-hole, and he was like, all right, I got to go, bye. But he did forget his substitute Soul Reaper badge, which, fucking rude as hell.
Rookie mistake, dude.
Then we find out that basically Urahara has filled in Isshin on everything. So I assume that he knows most of it. But Isshin kind of knew that he would get kicked out. They're like, yeah. It's like, he told me you saw Squad Zero, and I kind of figured that they're going to kick you out. And he's like, and Ichigo got pissed. He was like, what the fuck? And then his dad finally had to fucking explain. He's like, oh,
he had the talk.
yeah. He was like, you always said you would wait when I'm ready. It's like, that's his time. It's like, here we go. And that kicks off our flashbacks and everything but the rain. Isshin basically also says that he could not have fixed his broken Bankai in his current state anyways because he knows nothing about himself. And he says, you're not a Soul Reaper. You're not a regular human either. And he says, Ichigo, your mother was. And then we get the flashback beginning with Masaki Kurosaki. And she says she's a Quincy. So that kicks us off here to the Squad 10 barracks where we can see a young Rengiku, who's the lieutenant to Isshin Shiba. Shout out to my girl Kukaku. And Hitsugaya's third seat, which I thought a little bit interesting dynamic there. And he basically even comments on the line that Hitsugaya is the next in line and not Rengiku.
I love that because he was like, I would pick you over her.
Yeah, and he was like, man, Rengiku, if you ever become captain, the whole thing's doomed. The whole thing's done. I was like, oh, okay, all right. I mean, a little bit sexist, but I guess that's okay.
I do love the bit where he goes in and he's looking for like a sweet bun or something.
Yeah,
or
he
like
can't
a
find
pastry.
the street. Yeah.
And Toshio's like, it was delicious.
Yeah. Well, he kept going like, he's like, hey, have you seen this report? No, but like, anyways, where's my food? Like,
so the report, right?
Yeah. And he's like, I can't believe you just tried to wipe it off of that. And the report they're talking about is a report that basically one Soul Reaper died and then a couple more followed that in a city called Naruki, where they basically Soul Reapers are getting killed in their little position, like Karakura town, where they're just kind of hanging out.
Like
and
Afro dude?
Yeah, like Afro dude, basically.
Yeah.
Basically, 3 Afro dudes have died already. And that's when we get to see the coolest characters in the whole series, Aizen, Tozen, and Gen, make their return.
I know.
Dude,
he's not handsome Aizen,
No,
though.
he's not. He's nerd Aizen here. He's straight up nerd Aizen.
Robin.
I saw it. I was like, hell yeah, the boys are back, baby.
Yeah.
The boys. And you see their little hidden research facility that they're doing all their testing on. And they talk about how They've been successful in equipping hollows with the ability to hollowify their targets, but they just can't find anybody to withstand it, which is why they keep killing all the Soul Reapers. And they say that they're also close to figuring out the location where Shinji and the others are, which I thought was cool. Where they're like, yeah, we're still trying to find those little fuckers.
Yeah, because they went into hiding, right? Because of Urahara?
Yeah. They went into full-on hiding, and they went into hiding because Central 46 wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so much like, oh, we got to protect you from Aizen. It was like, no, like Central 46 will murder you guys because they're, sticklers. And they basically say that they obviously want the holification project to work, but they're using it as a 2 birds, 1 stone attack where we're going to keep holifying people to smoke out the other visors and basically make them reappear.
Yep.
And then we kill 2 birds, 1 stone. We got both of them, and then we'll test it all on them.
It's almost like Aizen's really smart.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The whole plan is great. It's really good plan.
It's all his fucking plan, dude.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Then Isshin, after hearing that, he immediately goes over to Naruki City by himself, and he learns from the couple of nameless Soul Reapers that are there that they keep dying on rainy days. Is where they keep dying.
Specifically rainy days.
When it's rainy, that's when all that shit happens. And then this is where we go to some of the Isshin family, unfortunately, which not Isshin. We get the Ishida family. And we meet Aunt Izumi is how Masaki refers to her, but that is Isshin's mom, or Ryukin's mom. God, I'm all over the place. It's Ryukin's mom, which is Uryu's grandma, if we're keeping count here. And she asks how Masaki's Seirin is going. I don't know if they use a different word in the English dub, but the fuck is that?
They do say Seirin.
They said Seirin, and I didn't bother to look it up.
Hello again, Editor Sam here. We had a question in the video as what is Seirin, which I had to do a quick little Google so we could right the wrong that nobody looked it up. It literally just is Quincy training. It could be referred to as Seirin, which means sacred/holy training if we're going to do the translation for it. So there you go. Back to the podcast.
So whatever Seirin is, she's fucking pissed that it's not going well.
Yep.
She is mad.
Well, because I think later on they tell you that Misaki is all about defense.
Yes.
Yeah.
They talk about it way later.
later.
That's like where she talked about like her thing is, defense, which is cool. And they talk about how Masaki is basically the only survivor left of the Kurosaki family. And that's why she was taken in by the Ishida family because they were like, oh
my God, like the Uzumaki clan?
Yeah, like the Uzumaki clan. And they were like, oh, man, like another like woman that's all by themselves that needs to breed and carry on their family legacy. Like we got a guy like right here. It's like, we'll take you and we're rich. And that's the whole thing. And it's, She basically nobody ever asked her if she knows, but she knows, and she's fucking like devastated by this whole thing, and she's basically just like this fucking bloodline saving woman, once again racist. And then they talk about where the dad is, which is Ryukin's dad, aka
Uryu's
grandpa, and he's in the Funt field, the I don't know what the fuck that is, the Funtfeld. Pythes, any idea what that is?
No, but it's the place where he goes to fuck off and ignore his family.
I got to the end part here where they're like talking about healing Masaki, and he's like, oh, he's still gone. To where? Where the fuck did he go? Like, did we get an explanation on that?
I think they straight up say, oh, we sent someone to go get him.
Yeah, it's like, we're still trying to contact him. Well, I better fucking hurry. You guys been trying since the last episode.
Yep.
Uryu's dad is like, man, I fucking hate my dad and the Quincy's. He was never there.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. And I feel like Uryu's dad was probably one of those ones where it's like, oh, like we got to try and help the Quincy see the other way. We got to help him. So he was always gone. And then they're like the classic family, like with the resentment and all that stuff.
Maybe go home like once a week.
Yeah, just make an appearance. That's all you got to do. You could have saved the world at that point, man.
He's got to be like Goku.
Yeah, he's got to drop by every once in a while. And after they're done having this little conversation, that's where we meet Katagiri, which is the future mom of Uryu, who is the maid of the Ishida family. And we find out that Izumi, she wants to protect, which was really confusing me because I was used to fucking Ichigo's older sister that we just met, Izumi or Izuki or whatever her name is, and I was like, I'm so confused on all their names.
Ikumi, right?
Yeah, Ikumi. We got Ikumi and then Izumi, and I'm like, dude, this is all over the place.
Just call her Uryu's grandma.
Uryu's grandma. So Uryu's grandma, she basically only wants to protect the Ect Quincy blood and the Ishida family, and that's the only reason that she brought Masaki in.
Mm-hmm.
And we go back to Isshin now on the prowl, trying to figure out where the fuck this hollow is. And he's like, I can't figure out if they're like just going after Soul Reapers in general, if they're responding to high spiritual pressure. So he unleashes a whole bunch, and that's where we get the aura that we talked about. It's a bright yellow, or like literally Super Saiyan aura. And they do that, and we see the two people underneath him get their heads fucking sliced into.
Dude, I saw that, and I was like, damn.
That was brutal. I was like, oh, shit.
I would have, the minute he said go home, I would have been like, hey, you said so, man. I'm out of here, dude.
Fuck this.
Still?
He gave him full, like, hey, if it rains, you guys go home. And they're like, oh, look at Isshin, we're gonna hang out with him. Like that'll be like, no, dog, you're gonna be in the fucking blast zone. Absolute idiot. And so that's when we see the introduction of a black hollow, which we will later learn his name is White of all things, and its hollow hole is covered up, but like almost it looked like a heart to me.
Yeah, it was like plugged up.
Yeah, it's like complete, which I don't know what significance that really has. It's not like is the hole significantly a weak point? Has that been established or anything, or what does it matter?
It looks more like it's just a symbolic, like we can kind of make him a hollow, but not really.
Okay. And then we find out that it's custom. So Masaki wants to run out and immediately help because she sends us 2 large spiritual pressures. And that's when Ryukin is like, hey, no, don't do it. It's like, it's custom for us to go out after they died.
They're vultures.
Yeah, basically. And then they say it's best to, even when they do go out, they personally don't go out. They send the maids. And they refer to them as the Gamish. They send the Gamishta. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that, but Katagiri is a part of it, who is Uryu's future mom. Isshin is fighting this hollow. He comments about how it looks like a hollow, but full on fights like a Soul Reaper, so it makes it very confusing for him to fight. And he gets pushed so far back, he falls into Cour town, of course. Classic. And you find out it's under Squad 13's protection, who the person that comes up to tell him that immediately gets fucking glacked. Another Soul Reaper down. And that's when Isshin's able to decide where each time he's basically this hollow is devouring a Soul Reaper, he gets stronger. So he then says it's also acting like a Menos, where, shout out to Grimjo, where he's basically going around devouring all of these people in order to get stronger into the
and he hits him with the Seros when he noticed it.
And the Sero animation was sick.
Yeah,
fucking sick.
But we didn't hear the noise. The noise was slightly different if it was.
I feel like they made the noise. I don't know. I would have to go back and see, but I think they made the noise because Isshin is wondering basically now, like, he sees all the stuff, all the pieces fall into place, and he's like, okay, like, who sent this guy? Because there's no way something this strong doing the Sero is what set him off. He's like, okay, ain't no way something this strong is wandering around Soul Society's not picked it up. So he immediately knows something's up, and that's when he gets slashed in the back.
Yeah.
And that's when we see Aizen, Gen, and Tozen all there, and they're all wearing the black cloak that Urahara used to sneak around, and I was like, oh, sick. But
I like how he knows from the way he was cut. He's like, that was a Soul Reaper.
He immediately knew. He was like, that was a Soul Reaper. Somebody's pulling the strings here.
Yep.
I was like, damn, Isshin, like, they show a little bit later he's not the smartest guy. He's not the quickest to pick up on things. But in combat, he seems quick.
Yeah.
He seems real quick. And we get a little bit of narration from Aizen here, where basically says the hollow is covered in black armor. Is how they're doing it, but it's called white due to the whiteness inside of him, which I assume is just like the white fluids that we see kind of like burst out of Ichigo and stuff like that. Is that what he's referring to in the whiteness?
I don't know. I just like he had a white face. Maybe that. I just like I'm gonna call this thing white.
Yeah, just to be an asshole further. Then we see Isshin is able to cut off an arm, and that's when he starts doing the Serogan, which is purple, by the way, which is fucking baller.
Beast color.
Yeah, and Masaki shows up then, and I like this part because Masaki shows up and Tozen's like, she's not part of the plan, I'll kill her. And I'm like, damn, Tozen.
And I do love Aizen being like, hold on.
Yeah,
I kind of want to see this play out.
Classic scientist, just like, well, we could, but how cool would it be if we watched?
Yeah, I want to see this interaction. And then White decides to go after her.
Yeah, which was, I don't know, I guess maybe how that was decided, but White 2 was like, yeah, fuck it, let's get her in this party.
He's like, she's cute, I'm after it.
Yeah, and I really liked, like, Masaki, we saw the shooting of the arrows, which has been a classic Uryu staple. We've always seen the fucking screen filled with the blue, but I feel like we don't often see the dodging. Like, the hollow dodging when in the he was fluid, like, he's dipping and diving. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Because even with the fight with Stark and Kiraku, it was very like, this one, this guy is full on diving through the arrows and stuff. I was like, damn, animation's gotten good. It's gotten really, really good. And I fucking love how Masaki was able to kill this thing.
Oh my God, same. When she's just like, oh, well.
Got ya.
Come at me, son. Come at me.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know what the fuck she shot. I wrote down, she like fucking lets it bite her, and then she pulls out some sort of a fucking pistol, blunderbuss, arrow, fucking
Boom.
just shoots it right in the head. I'm like, damn.
She glacked him, dude. She's a thug.
It was way cool. And that's when we find out that the hollow starts to do a self-destruct technique. And that's when Isshin saves Masaki, the classic love story. He hops in, does his thing. And we get this kind of interesting thought process from Masaki where she's like, oh, like, should I tell this guy who I am?
I mean,
like,
at that point, you see a blue arrow, you're like, I know what you are, dude.
Yeah, it's like it's already a bit sold, but I guess she doesn't even mention like, oh yeah, he probably knows what I am. She's worried about like, hey, how's the Soul Reaper gonna react? And then she's like, fuck it. She's like, hey, yeah, I'm a Saki, I'm a Quincy, and that's that scene we saw.
I love her attitude. She's hilarious.
Yeah, and I love also that Isshin's like, oh, cool. It's like very cool. He had to think about it totally for a second, but then he's like, oh, and I wrote Masaki has a thought after that. It's like, man, I wonder if all Soul Reapers are like this. Like,
Yeah.
the Ishida family would love Soul Reapers if they're like this. I was like, yikes. Yikes. It's like, that's not going to end well for any of them.
She's thinking about it all wrong. But she's got the right intentions, you know? And I think Isshin just says, oh my God, I didn't think you guys were real.
Yeah.
So there are some of you left.
Yeah. And even later, when he's thinking when they have the little captains meeting in the next episode, he kind of is thinking like, oh, like I heard reports they were still around, but it's like, I didn't know, like for sure. And it's like, I guess it's true.
You remember when you were talking and you were saying they're coming in like vultures to scavenge the meat? I viewed it more as they don't want Soul Reapers to know they exist, but they still want to protect people from hollows. So unless a Soul Reaper gets killed, they're not going to go out.
That makes a lot of sense because it's like, why bother?
Here's my argument for that. Let's say there's a Soul Reaper that's out there doing their job, doing their thing. He's fighting a hollow. Another hollow appears in another location. Do they take care of the other hollow?
I don't know. Maybe.
Because I don't think, in my mind, I don't think they would come out, period, unless the Soul Reaper was gone because they don't want to risk it.
I agree with that, actually.
Unless it's a sure shot. All the Soul Reapers are over here, maybe. So I'll go over there.
Yeah, unless they knew 110%, like, hey, there's not a chance it's being seen. They're not going to know this hollow is there. You know, like the whole fucking caboodle, you know, then they will do it. But I think if they have any idea where, like, the Soul Society maybe picked this hollow up, they already figured this out, I don't think they would go out. I don't think they would save anybody. I think they would let people get killed.
Because remember, they weren't just, like, persecuted. This was a full-on genocide. All the Quincy's had to go. So it is of the utmost importance that they shut the fuck up and stay where they are.
True.
Yeah, makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Very true. After all this little exchange happens with Masaki, and we find out Ryukin and I forgot, you know, Uryu's mom. They're all watching the whole thing, and Ryukin is just like, "Hey, this never happened. Nothing happened." And
Yeah,
I'm like,
he straight up goes like, "Hey,
Ryukin's a good guy.
no report here."
Like, yeah, good guy through and through. He really is. And that's when we get a little bit more discussion from the gang. They go back to their hideout. I'm talking Aizen again and Tozen. And Tozen is upset that White, he self-destructed, which means that I'm going to give you the exact wording here. He surpassed the target holification phase and reached the final metastasize phase and passed it on to a Quincy. So basically all you need to get from that is he passed holification successfully onto a Quincy. And he's pissed. He's like, oh, that's supposed to go to a fucking Soul Reaper because they're trying to better themselves, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Urahara kind of touches down in the next episode as well. And then in this one, I watched the after credit scene. There's an after credit scene on this one, and this is where we see Uryu get approached by Yugrim.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because he's just standing there in the fucking dark.
Yeah.
I think no, it's raining.
It's raining
yeah.
with the theme, everything but the
Yeah,
rain.
yeah.
Come on.
Oh,
Yeah.
that rain animation?
Yeah.
Fucking beautiful.
Really beautiful.
Fantastic.
They did like a great fucking job. And with that, that's the end of episode 11. Pythes, anything?
All right. So we'll just go right onto that Yugrim scene and to where I'm saying, hey, hasn't it been like 3 days since Ichigo and all that shit happened? So were you just standing in the rain waiting for someone to show up?
Yeah, how I imagine it, Uryu read all that stuff. He kind of figured out what happened. He's kind of thinking about his inside, like, man, they fucking slaughtered all my people, you know, like, and I've been helping them, so on and so forth. And he has just been, he'll come back inside to sleep every once in a while. But then when it's raining, he just goes out there and just thinks himself.
He's just a mopey boy right now.
He's just moping.
I'm saying they should have saved that shot for like the ending of the last episode. Because it's just weird here.
It is
Yeah,
weird.
it is.
And I have not seen the last episode yet because this is my first time ever watching it. But I would assume it's not going to pay off.
Yeah. So I wrote, fuck yeah, Ichigo's hot boss is back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then I wanted to, so I wrote on the message, I was looking up dates. So let's see. Apparently this is happening in 1980. Where did I write it down? 1981. This takes place in 1981.
Okay. And this is the Everything But the Rain takes place in 1981.
Yes, because canonically, the first part of Bleach takes place in 2001, and Thousand Year Blood War is 2003.
Interesting.
And Ichigo was 15 in 2001, so he had to be born in 86.
And then could you reverse engineer that? And from the beginning of Bleach, it was 9 years since his mother died. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Because I think they say that when the introduction, when they're talking about the
Yeah.
flashback, they say like, oh, what happened 9 years ago. Because then at the very end, which we're going to get to wrap it all up, he gives that little spiel about like, oh, there's the old tale of Yuha Baha needing like 90 years for this, 9 years for this, 90 days for this, or something like that.
I'll get to that part later, actually. But if he said 9 years, wouldn't it have been like 6 instead? 9, 8, no, 7, because of the 2-year time skip.
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea.
Let's see, something, 2000, whatever. I said, look, it's the Masaki unit I never pulled in BBS.
Hey, the God Nad unit, the purple Nad.
She's so good, and I never got her.
I don't have that unit. Yeah.
She's fantastic. I got her because I'm just the best. But I got her.
They cut a scene from the manga, and I remember this specifically because I thought it was stupid. When Isshin is first talking to Rangiku, he says, "Oh, by the way, when you were running around trying to find me, the sweat made your boobs look really good."
They
The
probably
boy.
decided not necessary. They were like, yes, that would be kind of funny, but they're like, yeah, not necessary.
Yep.
And then for once, all of my other points were covered in just discussion, so we can move on to episode 12.
Oh, nice. We're getting better, Sam.
There we go. There we go. It only took us 11 episodes. We're moving on to 12, episode 12 now. So I was a little confused at the start of episode 12 because I kind of thought in my hazy memory, it went straight from the interaction with the white to straight up Isshin not coming back. So I was like, the fuck is he doing in the middle of a captain's meeting?
I thought the exact same.
Why did he not bring up the fact that there's a potential traitor?
Probably to not alert the traitor.
True.
Isn't that why a lot of people like keep there's a mole here, I'm not going to say anything because I'll alert him.
But like, hey, a simple, hey, just a heads up. As I was fighting the white, I got slashed by a Zanpakuto toe in my back. And I'm pretty sure that this super mega strong hollow is being hidden by a Soul Reaper.
I feel like he should have said that to Yamamoto.
Yeah, like a
least,
sidebar
yeah.
or something. Just like, hey, can I? Because even Yama asked him, like, are you sure? But here's how I see that going, right? Because Yama's a fucking a-hole. You go, hey, Yama, can I speak to you? Like, or he goes like, hey, because he asked, that's 100% what happened. You're not leaving anything out, are you? And you're like, well, there's some things I want us to discuss with you privately. Well, what can't you say in front of your fellow captains here, Isshin? And they'd be like, oh, really gonna put me on the spot like that? You gonna fuck me?
So I saw it more as we don't know that he didn't say there might have been a traitor in the report.
Well, I feel like if he did say there was a traitor in the report, everything would be much different. And I feel like the Soul Reapers have no fucking excuse for trying to like, hey, it's so weird. Urahara, all that stuff with him that was going on. And now there's a traitor that's happening. That's, this weird hollow is also going around that's really strong. Maybe we should look
investigate.
into something. Yeah.
To be fair, that was like 100 years ago.
All right. Well, that's like a fucking year in Soul Reaper time, okay?
Wait, so when did Isshin become a captain then?
I don't know. I don't know if he was the captain back then or not.
There cannot have been any overlap because he does not know who Urahara is.
He had heard about him but didn't know who he was.
True. You only hear rumors and legends about his hat.
Yeah.
Hat and claw. He's like, oh, there he is. Found him.
I need to get that hat.
Yeah. Okay. So I did not get that hat, but there was a hat from Tiger and Bunny that I wanted.
Is
really
that
badly.
one?
I wanted. It's a green and white hat also, but it was like kind of one of those British style hats that you'd see. And it was in Tiger and Bunny that one of the main guys wears it. And I was like, that's a cool fucking hat. So I used to go to this anime store all the time in the Westminster Mall, and I used to go always like on my lunch break just to browse and like fill some extra time. And so I got really close with the owner, and I was telling her about this hat. I was like, yeah, they have the official hat. She's like, oh, you could probably order it if you want it. So I was like, hell yeah. So she ordered it. I bought it, and this is where I learned about such a thing as Japanese sizes, where it's just not meant for my head. It's just like, and American size hats are also not meant for my head. So Japanese size hats are definitely not meant for my head. So I bought it. I tried it on in the store, and I was like, yeah, fits great. And I took it home, and I never wore it again because it doesn't fit my head.
I have the exact opposite problem where I let my hair grow out too much, and hats won't fit anymore.
We're birds of a feather, really.
I just got a average size head, I guess. I'm like, damn, I'm just an average person.
Must be nice, Jose. Must be nice. Back to our captain's meeting. I also wrote that Yama just forgives Isshin, which is the first time I think I've ever seen that in my fucking life. He's just like, all right, yeah, you saved some people, I forgive you. I was like, the fuck?
Yeah, I was surprised. He's like, well, I'll look the other way on this one.
Yeah. And then a couple other funny things also. Mayuri was upset that he didn't retrieve the body of the hollow. And I was like, all right, yeah, classic. We love that. And then obviously, he gets asked, like, is that for sure everything that was there? And Isshin continues to lie that Masaki was never there. And I was like, what an upstanding guy.
Yeah.
But I do like the next following scenes where he's kind of laying down and he's just thinking about her the whole time.
Well, you get like Masaki thinking of him. He's thinking of Masaki. And it's like, oh, it's a love story. Ooh. And then we find out. So I don't know if this is true. Probably this is maybe a question for you, Jose. I'd be impressed if you know this. when Masaki's walking out of school, she's talking with all of her girlfriends. Obviously, this could be just a lie that she's telling her girlfriends. She says that Ryukin is her cousin.
I don't know, probably. I mean, if they're
It might be. It's like
if they're both like purebred Quincy's, there's probably some inbreeding going on. They're probably related, like the British aristocracy.
makes sense.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I was like, it's totally. I could see that being inbreeding, but I could also see it just kind of being like, oh, isn't it weird that you live with this family that's not yours? You're like, oh, he's my cousin, haha.
I thought it was her just covering it up.
Yeah, I'm
that's
saying it could go either way, but also with the history of racism and the Quincy blood and the inbreeding, I could see that being just right in line.
I mean, they have a term for people that are not purebloods, man.
Yeah, muggles.
Mudbloods, come on.
Mudbloods. Muggles are humans, huh?
Yep, powerless people.
Just regular people.
Okay, all right. Well, I was in the ballpark. So in this same scene where we're talking with Masaki, talking to all of his girlfriends, Masaki bumps into Urahara, and that's when she starts kind of having her little hot flashes. And Urahara is able to immediately. He's like,
He picks up on it.
yeah. He's like, oh shit.
He's like,
all
you
right.
ain't okay, girl.
He's like, yeah, I've been studying that for 100 years. It
So,
seems pretty similar.
Was that just a casual encounter, or was it like him already thinking about it and been like, something's up?
That's a good question. Maybe he saw some of the stuff, and maybe because I would not be surprised if maybe Urahara picked up on the scent of Aizen being there, and so he ran over there, and he was maybe able to see the remains of what was happening. He was able to figure out.
So he probably already thought it was weird that this hollow was already killing a bunch of people.
Yeah. He was probably already looking into it, and then he probably was even more alerted when I imagine he had some sort of way of being like, oh, there's some, like, because even Masaki, who's not, like, obviously knows well-trained, she was like, yo, there's two fucking huge spiritual pressures going on. So I'm sure Urahara was like,
He's like, well,
yeah,
that's my ticket.
there's something going on over there.
Urahara was talking about it, or at least in his internal monologue, he's like, oh, wait, hold up, what's this? So I think he's aware of shit going on, but him bumping into Masaki was coincidence.
Okay. And then let's see. Masaki goes home, and basically we find out that Katagiri, the mom of Uryu, snitched to the mom
Snitches
of
get
Ryukin,
stitches, man.
And we basically find out that she did it kind of out of a nice place in her heart, but also kind of to get her get
way.
ahead.
Yeah.
Because she tries to spin it as basically Masaki doesn't get proper Quincy treatment, the bloodline will be tainted. And she's like, oh, well, Ryukin, you're always talking about how it requires you to be happy for the bloodline to be good and to look towards the future. So I did this for you. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Manipulative
Like,
much?
yeah, like settle down. Which, I guess if you believe her, that's a nice thing. If you don't, I mean, yeah, she's playing her game. Then Ryukin runs back and basically still tries to take the blame, which I thought was super nice. Like, Ryukin is the whole thing is just an upstanding guy.
He's
all the way through and through.
Yeah, why is his son a piece of shit?
Maybe he smoked while he was pregnant.
Well, I would argue that Ryukin probably turned into a piece of shit when Katagiri died.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. His happiness died.
Yeah.
His happiness died, and it died because of basically their king.
Yeah.
Which makes me fucking pissed that we don't get any sort of, I don't know, like payback scene for Ryukin. It
would have been so dope.
He doesn't get his comeuppance. Same thing with like Isshin. They appear, then what? What do they do?
They shoot an arrow at him.
I mean, hey, I guess they fucking threw a rock at him. Congrats. So, let's see. At this point, Masaki collapses back on the ground, and she gets a hollow hole that forms right in front of her, and that's where we find out the classic where Ryukin's dad is still just fucking MIA. Uryu's grandpa fucked off somewhere. Nobody get a hold of him, and the big ass hollow so Ryukin takes Masaki, fucks off. Who knows where the fuck he's going? I don't know what his game plan was or where he's trying to take her to, but he takes her and fucks off. Maybe just so that the mom doesn't like try to mercy kill her or something.
Probably.
So he fucks off. Then a random big ass hollow shows up, about to eat both of them, and that's when Isshin shows up, and he's like, "Yo, what up?"
Yeah.
And he sees the hollow hole. Ryukin is like, "Nah, fuck off. Like, don't touch her." And then we get Urahara also showing up. He's like, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, "Yeah, I know how to save her, but you guys got to come with me. There's a brief chance to do it."
Well, real quick pause here, though.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
Ryukin just grabs Misaki and jumps and leaves, right?
Yeah.
He's a human, right?
He's a Quincy.
Ryukin. Well, Quincy human, right? So does he? Can people see him while he's jumping up there?
As far as I know, yes.
There you go.
Okay, well,
There you
I'm
go.
like, I was always confused by that because no one can see like spirits, soul reapers and everything. So I'm like,
You
oh,
should know people in Japan, their heads don't go up, Jose. Obviously, that's
Thank
how all
you.
of this stuff can happen in the sky and nobody sees it.
that makes a lot of
They
sense.
just simply are impossible to look up. That's all.
Do you in the early episodes when Uryu and Ichigo were having the hollow killing contest.
Yep, the classic.
Ichigo is basically invisible, and I think there's a shot of some people just looking at Uryu shooting an invisible bow, looking like a jackass.
Oh my.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
there is. I
yeah,
think there's some people
yeah.
that see it, and I think it might even have been like Orihime and stuff, where they're like, "Oh, what are they doing in the park?" They're just like role playing or something.
Yeah, because they're like
fucking
running around and screaming, right?
Yep.
So, like, I imagine there's like one kid looking out his window, seeing a dude jumping in the air with a woman. Like, what the fuck?
He's
Looking at his chocolate milk. Holy
like,
shit,
I
dude.
don't know what this is. This is something happening.
Mom.
So, Urahara goes on to further. They're back at the classic Urahara shop, and this is where he basically explains. There's a lot of explaining here. He says, "I'll tell you the choices you have to save her," and he's obviously been researching the same symptoms that affects her for over 100 years. You know, obviously the visors, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. And he says that Masaki will never be able to go back to the way that she used to, and she is at risk of something called soul suicide, where basically souls who undergo the holification, they all will eventually become mindless monsters and self-destruct against their will, which I don't know. I think he kind of alludes to it, how he's able to save the visors, but I don't know how they weren't forced to go under the same procedure.
Magic.
Magic. All right. They used magic, I guess, to get out of that. And he says that the only way to prevent the soul suicide is to basically counteract this holification, and you have to inject something into the soul, and it has to be the complete opposite of what this thing is. So for an example, soul reapers are the opposites of Quincy's, humans are the opposites of hollows, and she's currently a hollow Quincy hybrid with the hole on her, so they need somebody who is a human soul reaper hybrid. Ryukin immediately figures it out. He's like, no, fuck that. And Isshin just like, eh?
He's like, can I get the answer, please?
Yeah, and that's when Urahara continues on, where he basically built a special Gigai that will completely envelop the soul that enters it, turning them completely into a human, which at that point I did not understand. If he's completely a human, it doesn't make sense to me. There's not a Soul Reaper anymore, whatever. And then basically if Isshin enters it, he'll become a Soul Reaper human hybrid, which is her exact opposite. And when he does enter this Gigai, his soul will be binding to Masaki's soul and the hollow within her with a string of reishi, and that basically he straight up says that will be passed down to all of her future generations as well. And he said as long as Isshin remains in the Gigai, he will be unable to use his powers and won't be able to even see hollows. And once he gets in, it's highly likely he can never return to being a Soul Reaper again. And with all of that, we get Ryukin kind of doing inner monologue like, man, that's a lot of downsides. He'll never do it. And he's like, okay.
He's like, I'll do it.
Yeah, he's like, fuck it. And I really like this line from Isshin, so I did write it down, where he's like, yo, if I let the person who saved me die here because I couldn't make a decision, I know my future self will laugh at me. I was like, oh.
Yeah,
I respect
I like
that.
that.
I respect that a lot. Because there is times where it's like, yo, if you had just decided, you're good. But the fact that you kind of lollygagged and kind of waited, the more time you wait, the worse it gets.
Yep.
Where it even shows, like, I mean, once they go inside the soul of Masaki and they show it, like, she was about to be eaten, and Isshin's like, hey, what up? Like, I'm here.
Yeah, he's like, I'm here to save you.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, and it's totally true. Like, the fact that he was good to go, easy peasy. Not that big of a deal. So we get the scene of Ryukin basically now, he leaves. We get that scene of them inside the soul, which is total reference to when Rukia and Ichigo Ichigo saved Rukia. Same sort of thing, holding her. She's naked this time though, so a little bit cooler, I suppose. And we get Ryukin leaving, and that's when we see Katagiri being a fucking weirdo, just hanging out in the rain. And she's like, "Oh, did you leave Masaki with the Soul Reaper?" And he's just like, "Yeah, I did." And I mean, listen, I'm glad that they got together, right? Ryukin deserves a honey. But she was fucking sitting out there waiting like a lion stalking prey, all right? And then the wounded gazelle came out of the Urahara shop.
She hit him with
the
wounded
like,
gazelle.
That's my fucking prey right there, baby. And she jumped. She jumped. And then she was like, oh, like, is Masaki okay? I left her with Soul Reaper. Oh, okay, cool.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I guess.
Like, well, I'm here and I only want to see you happy, and that's all I want for my life. It's like, fuck you, Katagiri. He's like, get your own, bitch.
Okay, we have the opposite of that, where Ura says, okay, Isshin, I know you're like a couple 100 years old. So I'm gonna need you to groom this teenager.
Okay, that is true, because in the flashbacks, 100% in the flashbacks, or like the continued flashbacks coming up, he even straight up says like, yeah. And then so after Masaki graduated high school, and I was like, oh, whoa.
So he waited.
He's like, I forgot about that part.
Their age of consent is different in Japan too.
Both couples are bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
man,
man.
great point, Jose. Yeah, great point. So carrying on, obviously we get the graduation from high school, and that's when we find out Masaki properly left the Ishida family, and we get Isshin. He opens up his own clinic with the skills that he learned in the Soul Reaper Academy, and then he also, hint, hint, not judge, Urahara helped him with that.
I thought that was cool. Get him a clinic. He's like, I have the skills. I could put him to use. Whatever.
Yeah, it was a great setup, and he's like, yeah, we all have to learn healing things when we're in the academy anyway, so it's like, I'll go ahead and set this up. And then he also mentions that he lied to Masaki about what happened and tells her that he was banished from Soul Society, and that's why he can't use his powers anymore. And he was like, yeah, I told her that. She always sees through my lies, though, and it's like, he never confirmed with her, but he was like, she probably knew I was lying. She was always able to tell whenever I was lying, so she probably knew. And she knows, she accepts that I'm lying, and she forgives. And I'm like, what a good person.
Yeah, and I think in English, he says it's like a game almost, where it's like he will tell a lie, she figures it out, but doesn't say anything.
That's cool. I like that.
That's fucked. The game is, oh yeah, man, I love lying to my wife.
But it's not like a hard lie. Not like, hey, I cheated on you. Figure it out.
Yep.
It's just like, hey, I'm doing this to protect you. And she's like, I know. Like, thank you. And she's just okay with it. So it's sweet, Pythes.
I like that little bit too that we get at the end where he's like, oh, she goes off to college, comes back, makes fun of me, then we go out on a movie, and then he explains the whole center of the sun thing, and I was like, oh, my heart.
It's really sweet. He does a good job. Ishin's a great little storyteller.
Yeah,
like,
he
go,
is.
Isshin. I do have a question after all this flashback stuff happens.
Yeah.
So they talk about how basically the hollow is going to be passed on for generations. So is Ichigo's kid going to have the hollow in him now? Does Ichigo still have the hollow? Does it pass on when Ichigo dies? How does it work?
I think the hollow just kind of became the other half of Zangetsu.
Okay, so it's ending with Ichigo.
That's what I assume. I don't know, that'd be kind of cool.
Right?
Yeah.
It was his name. Kazui gets it.
Because they straight up say it's going to be with her for generations, and then obviously it passes to Ichigo.
Well, the sisters don't get any of it.
But maybe because that it's a plural one and done.
One and done thing.
Someone sucked it up, like the firstborn ripped it, and like boom, went on.
Or it could just be that they don't have like a strong enough spiritual pressure to kind of awaken it.
Oh, that's potential.
That's
also.
true.
Yeah, that's.
I mean,
totally
Karin's kind of like,
or potentially they didn't have enough spiritual pressure to even hold it, because that's the problem having with the hollow to begin with.
There's also like it only showed up in near-death experiences, like when he was fighting Renji and then Kenpachi, the mask showed up. So they haven't all died enough.
True. So all good points. So we'll never know if they have it, because who knows when Bleach is coming back? We'll never ever know.
Exactly.
So we get following up, obviously, where Isshin's talking about how he's able to use his Soul Reaper powers now. He says that because the hollow was released due to Isshin's soul pressure not being enough to suppress it anymore. So basically Ichigo and the hollow grew so strong that he wasn't able to suppress that hollow anymore. So that's why it became a thing. And because that connection was broken, then he was able to leave the Gigai, so on, so forth. He's eventually able to come to be a Soul Reaper again. And so we get obviously the talk now about what happened on the day that she died. How did she die? Because obviously Isshin can't use powers, but she's still a full-on Quincy.
Yep.
Straight up. And so this is when they talk about that she was an ect Quincy. I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know what that is, but he said that.
It means pure.
Oh, pure blood Quincy. And that's where he said that her defensive blue vein was exceptionally powerful, like really, really good. And she could have defeated Grand Fisher without a single scratch on her that day. A single scratch, it would have been fucking light work instantly. But then she lost her Quincy powers the day that she died, and Oswalin happened, where it's a Quincy selection process by Yuha Baha himself, and basically Yuha Baha goes through and takes the powers from Quincy's that he deems impure, and he takes them and makes them his own, and that's how Masaki died. And then they say Uryu's impure, frail mom. I was like, Jesus,
they were fucked up.
I hate Katagiri too. You didn't gotta sling so many results her way. Like, that's crazy. And she also lost her life, and that's how they became best buds for the
because it weakened her, and she fell ill.
Yeah, she was already frail, and she kind of got fucked up over that. And then he further goes on to talk about that Yuha Baha is the father of the Quincy's. They all started from him, so they all have his blood running in their veins. And I wanted to make special note after this whole little talk, Ichigo does thank his dad. And I was like, it's about fucking time.
I know. Isshin did so much for you.
His dad is so nice and so awesome, and he thanks his dad. And I'm like, about fucking time. And one of the last little things, we get Ikumi outside of the house, and she's there to return the badge.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, time to go. And I'm like, nice. And that's it. That's the end of episode 12.
I'd like to point out that Isshin did wake Ichigo up every day with a drop kick.
It was training, Pythes, and love.
I do miss those earlier interactions between them, like opening the window and having him fall and all that stuff.
Classics.
All right, I guess we'll go to my notes then.
Do you think Isshin still has that giant poster of Misaki?
Yes, 100%.
That poster is the best thing about their house.
It's the talking point of the house.
What is it? Him and Yuzu are always like, "Oh my god, my wife."
So I just noticed a detail I should have noticed before. So we get a look at Isshin's sword. It has these two little rope tassels hanging from it.
Yes.
Those are also hanging off of each original Ichigo sword at the beginning of the series.
Was it two? I thought it was just one.
That's cool.
I looked back; it was two, and I think they were both blue. But it's been
Yeah.
They cut a scene from the manga again with nudity, where Masaki like, "Hey, who are you?" And straight up in the manga, they just draw her nipples.
Oh yes, I do remember this.
He's like,
because we were in high school when this happened. I think.
He's like, "Bitch, put clothes on."
How could we forget?
As a teenager, man, the shit.
Masaki did the meme face, the famous Masaki meme face, and I was like, "Oh, that."
The side eye one.
Yeah. Oh, that was Gabe's profile picture on Discord for like years. I missed that.
Long time.
And Ashwalin means select or selection.
Okay.
And that's the end of my notes, except for that really long one I'm going to go on in a minute. So you guys got anything else?
No. So what was, I guess, my only last thing that I want to question you about, Pythes, is the whole 9 years for this, 90 days for this, whatever the fuck it was. What was it?
Oh, that's that's how long it took for him to come back to life after he got fucking rocked by Yama.
So I guess my question is, we kind of get a teaser of this at the end of Bleach, obviously. Will he forever reincarnate?
Well, considering what happened in Can't Fear Your Own World, he can't because he's busy.
Correct. Correct. Okay. But so here's I guess my misunderstanding, right? Because I do know what happens in Can't Fear Your Own World, which
a little bit.
Spoilers for Can't Fear Your Own World. Yeah, a little bit. Jose, you looked a little confused. They basically use Yua's body to replace the Soul King.
Yeah.
But at the end of Bleach proper, we see Ichigo's son basically zap away the Yuha Baha.
Oh yeah, the little was it the little remnant of it?
Yeah. So what was that?
It was the little bit of him that was left over. Then he disappeared and was gone.
Okay. So we'll just say that was just a little bit left over, and he was trying to come back. And Kazui, is that his name? He was just zapped away.
Our boy.
Going into the Hellverse, dude.
Yeah, okay. That's it. I mean, hey, baller fucking episodes. We got one episode left. So the game plan going forward, not Udio, fucking Pythes has a little rant that he wants to go on that he discovered. We've been waiting for it all day, so stick around. It's not the end, but we're doing the last episode of Cour 1 next week. We'll talk about predictions, hype, things like that for Cour 2, and then the week after that, Cour 2 episode 1 should be out.
Yeah, and we'll go weekly, right?
Yep.
Like
we'll go weekly,
one
6
episode
keep it up
after
with the
that.
episodes. So it should be a little bit shorter episodes, a lot more discussion about what happened, thoughts, things like that. Probably a little bit less recap heavy, but I think it'll be good. It'll be really good. All right, Pythes, hit it.
So one thing I cut from my notes was at the very beginning of episode 1, they do the whole speech about Yuha, right? Regains his life, regains his strength, regains the world. And he reminded me of this concept in mythology and folklore called the King in the Mountain or the King under the Mountain. Have either of you ever?
Oh, are we talking about the Hobbit?
Kind of?
My boy, you piqued my interest.
Kind of. It's the concept of a culture or a country will have this figure like a hero or a king that they're gone. They either died in a battle or they went off somewhere. But they will.
It's like the Avatar.
Yes, but one day they will return and they will bring the people to glory again. And that, I'm thinking like King Arthur, he didn't die at the Battle of Camlin. He went to go rest on the island of Avalon, and he's going to come back in Britain's time of need. King Charlemagne is somewhere in Austria, and he's going to come back. And I feel like Yuha is a darkened version of this. So he dies, and all the Quincy's are sad, and he's gone for 900 years. And before he comes back, they have the big genocide. And then he comes back, and he regains his intellect, and then he regains his strength by purging all the mudbloods, basically. And he goes on, and he goes, "We're going to lead all the Quincy's to glory. We're going to kill a bunch of Soul Reapers." And then it turns out he's a massive piece of shit. Any questions so far?
No,
nope.
That makes perfect sense to me. And it's like, that's totally true because a lot of the times, I mean, he basically took like the hero folklore where it's like, yeah, they're gonna come back and save us if we ever need them. Don't fucking worry about it. And then he was like, okay, so now what if the people who were thinking that they were a little bit evil? And then it's like, and what if the guy that's coming back, real piece of shit, like
even worse,
real piece of shit. So it was like basically the Nazis, like, yeah, don't worry, Hitler's not dead, which is a thing that people think, by the way, or he didn't die in that specific spot that we believe. They think he escaped. But like, yeah, if we need it for the uprising, he's gonna come back and he's gonna lead us again. That's basically it.
I heard he escaped to Argentina. I heard he became a head in a jar. He glocked himself in that bunker. But that was basically it. He just reminds me of that. I'm like,
okay, it's interesting.
But he comes back and he does lead a successful campaign. That first invasion of Soul Society went really, really, really well.
I mean, I would say even like the first half of the second invasion goes really, 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 really well. He's able, I mean, spoiler for Cour 2. I mean, I feel like this should be, I said that obviously, like we were talking about the spoilers in the opening. We assume you've read the manga already, and this is just, talking about stuff like that. But he defeats Jinbei, right? That's a feat in itself.
Jinbei?
Not Jinbei. Squad Zero captain who writes all the names.
Ichibei.
I'm in the ballpark every time.
Close enough.
I just can't nail it. He defeats Ichibei, which I think is a feat in all of itself. It's like an incredible, like, hey, you defeated the guy who names everything. Like, he is like OP as fuck. And so that's why I say the first half of that second one, he killed it. He killed it.
He gets his boys. He kills God and absorbs God.
Is that all happening in Cour 2?
No,
that's towards the end, right?
Not a chance in hell that that'll all be in Cour 2.
So like he's only stopped by the unstoppable tag team of the protagonist and the cool villain.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. I cannot wait to get more of our Aizen scenes, dude.
Oh my god, it's gonna be badass once they release him.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be amazing.
Welcome to my Soul Society.
Yeah. It's gonna be so good, dog. Whew. Anything else we want to touch on from the episodes? I feel like these were very lore heavy. I don't think we spent too much time on them, which was good. But I think we touched just enough. I think it was good. It was good stuff. Everything but the rain has been hyped forever since it came out.
I remember just being excited that we were going to get it in Cour 1.
Mm-hmm.
I'm shocked they're over already.
Yeah. It was quick. They didn't fuck around.
I'm so used to the pace of the old anime that, like, just the Kenpachi fight could have taken like 5 episodes.
It's true.
Yeah, that's
it's
very
totally true. They really could have drawn it out. And I feel like the times, I don't know, the pacing is obviously fast, and that's been touched on forever. But I feel like in this, they did a lot of the philosophical stuff still, where they were talking about like the thrill of the fight and that stuff. But they didn't spend nearly as much time as what they would have done back in the old school Bleach. Like, they chatted to each other for 3/4 of the fight.
Yeah, what fight? To be honest, it was a discussion where someone would swing a sword every now and then.
And that's why I was saying, with a lot of this discussion that we get into, like, obviously the big three, and this is undiscussionable. This is the big three. I don't want to hear anybody try to tell me it's not the big three, but Bleach, Naruto, and One Piece.
Yeah.
Out of
100%.
those, Bleach does not hold up nearly as well as Naruto or One Piece. And one of the big deciding factors for that to me is I think the fights in those other shows are just better. They're just better.
I think we agreed Naruto perfected the fighting.
Naruto has great fight scenes, and they hold up. The choreography is incredible.
I mean, look at the Gaara and Rock Lee fight that we get in tuning exams. That's fantastic.
War vs. Rock Lee holds up still.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yep, and it's just one of those things where it's like you kind of look back to Bleach. Like, I tried to get my girlfriend to watch it, and she really liked the beginning parts, which I thought was weird. She loved the parts where they're just going around doing like the little individual hollow investigations.
That's when my girlfriend got tired of it, so she went and watched it because I talked about it all the time, and she's like, it's cool for the first like 5 episodes, and then it gets boring. And then I told her to wait till Soul Society, and then she's like, I could see where this picks up, but she just didn't have time. And then she chimes in when I'm watching it now. She's like, holy shit, this is crazy.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a barrier to entry. And I feel like, the beginning episodes of Bleach, they are endearing, and you do like them a lot. But like, even when I was rewatching them, I was like, okay, there's a lot of these. Like, there are a lot of those episodes before they get to the meat and the potatoes of what the rest of the show is going to be. Where I feel like for Naruto, let's say, and even One Piece, it's very quick to the point, and it goes straight there, where it's like you get the introduction of the pirates, of the Shanks and all this stuff, and he immediately starts forming his crew. He goes around the world, where it's like you meet the introduction of these Soul Reapers, right? And you meet the introduction of these whole hollows and things like that, and this other world that exists, and so on and so forth. And then they very slowly go, okay, now let's teach you how to defeat the hollows. And the hollows are kind of just like a joke the moment that Ichigo gets his powers. None of them, I mean, he just kind of rocks all of them.
Just goes Bankai immediately.
Fisher and stuff like that. And it takes a while for it to get to the grand version of the Soul Reaper, the Soul Society Rescue arc, which is the one that everybody knows, where the first episode of Naruto, like with him and Iruka Sensei and that whole thing was fucking amazing. And then obviously the introduction of Shanks in episode 1. The first episode of Bleach was really good, but I don't think it's as good as those other ones.
I think Soul Society holds up really well because unlike the later episodes of Bleach, a bunch of shit is going on besides the fighting. You have the mystery of who's the traitor, what happened to Aizen, where's Rukia, who's Ichigo fighting, who's Uryu fighting. Whereas when you go to just Karakura, not the fake Karakura town arc, it's we go to this fight, and then we go to this fight, and then we go to this fight, and then this fight.
And like for me, like with the Karakura town, one of the ones where I think the wear and tear started to come through was when they're starting to have the battle above the fake Karakura town, and then we have to watch the lieutenants all go to the four corners and fight. And I was
protect
like,
the pillar
who
bit.
Cares? Who cares?
It wasn't until the visors really come in that it speeds up a bit more.
Yeah, and then in the part that you want to see when the visors come in, it's like that was over in a fucking blink. Like, what the fuck? And it just goes so quick. And it's like one of my favorite things was my girlfriend ended up going on to read Bleach because that way I told her, I was like, hey, if you read it, it goes way faster. Like it just from the pacing and just how it goes. It's a manga, so it goes way faster. My favorite thing was her doing the Soul. She only finished the Soul Society Rescue arc, but like her reading it and she's like, oh my god, Aizen is so cool. I was like, I love Aizen. He's like that cool kind of like father. And it's like, oh my god, somebody killed Aizen. And I was like, and the whole thing was
She
amazing.
was so sad when Aizen died, and we're like,
so sad. And I was like, yeah, it's like that's tough.
I like how we both were like, man died.
He was
poor
cool.
Momo.
He was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the whole thing was a fucking wild ride.
I mean, her favorite character is Chad.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, well, let's not slander her like that. But yeah, that's true. But it's like that stuff where it's like the Soul Society Rescue arc is great, but I just don't think any of the other stuff compares to Naruto, One Piece, that kind of stuff. Still love it though.
I have heard, and this is like a lot of people say though, when they're like, oh, I got into Naruto, but like during the COVID years, and then I hit them, oh, well, I've watched Bleach, and they hit me, oh, you've been into anime since like you were a little kid. Then they just refer to Bleach as that old anime.
Yeah, it feels like an old anime. It has pockets of animation where the fights are pretty good.
I mean that Shuei Findor fight.
That's good. I think every time Ichigo and Grimjaw fought, it was pretty good.
True.
Hell yeah.
I would agree with
That's
that.
why I fell in love with the dude.
I would agree with that. There are iconic moments in the anime and the manga. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, I just think choreography and the fighting and that kind of stuff, I don't think it holds up. I think everybody, like, we remember a very rose-tinted version of it. And that's why, like, a lot of the times, like, I love providing the propaganda. But I feel like a lot of people have not watched it since they were young. I don't think a lot of people have gone back and rewatched the whole thing. And I think even when people do rewatch it, they skip a lot. And they go like, nah, that's filler, not going to watch it. Nah, that's the filler, not going to watch it. Oh, this wasn't it. I'm going to skip forward a little bit. I'm only going to watch half this episode. So I don't think they've really gone back and watched it and be like, yeah, And also there's a thing, and this is not an every person thing, so I don't want people to feel attacked. I feel like there's a thing where people don't want to admit faults with their favorite show. You're ride or die.
I understand that.
Yeah.
And I'm a ride or die for Bleach. I think to me, it's my favorite out of the big three.
Yeah.
Same.
And I feel like some people, they can't admit, and it's funny because speaking about Django again, like the last episode, I follow him on Twitter. It's the best Twitter. He fucking will attack people, dog, and he'll just like retweet stuff and just go ape shit. But like he'll like go after people where it's like people just will refuse to admit that there's a fault with Bleach when there is faults with it, and there's also faults with Naruto. There's faults with One Piece also.
100%.
One Piece, it's like there's faults with all that stuff. But like heaven forbid you say that you're not a real Bleach fan. You're not a real Naruto fan. You're not a real One Piece fan. It's like, dude, everything has a fault. Like, even like the most perfect show in the world has a problem with it. It's like you're not gonna go out unscathed, but it's like you just gotta find something you enjoy. I don't know. I feel like you can enjoy stuff and criticize it, but I feel like that is becoming less and less of a popular opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's like it's just like you watched it, you thought you were super cool because you were the only person into it. Then everyone else grows up and they're like, oh, it's like whatever. And then you're just like, no, this is still the best thing that's ever happened.
It's kind of like they're attacking your personality at that point. Like, how dare you say that? It's like, okay, well, I wasn't attacking you. I was just saying the show has faults.
Where it's like, I eventually grew up, all these, like the new anime comers, they'll be like, oh, you watched Bleach? Oh, I heard it wasn't that good. And I'm like, it's not good for certain people, but I grew up with it. I fell in love with it. And I followed it up until the very end.
Once again, the best way to introduce somebody to Bleach, you can't skip the first beginning episodes, which is a little bit of a rip, but they need to watch up to the ending of the Soul Society Rescue arc. If they can make it to the beginning of that, they'll stay hooked. But if they watch that whole first arc, they love it, they say it's the best thing they fucking ever seen, they love the characters, then go for it. Continue on. If not, nick it. Move on.
Yeah,
It's like you
I
saw what is arguably one of the best parts. Move on.
I mean, you don't get the super cool characters afterwards, but
True.
I mean, you know, you could come back to it if you ever want to.
I mean, I think, loving something despite its faults, admitting those faults are pretty big, but still loving it is the ultimate form of enjoying a series.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment.
That's very adult. That's very deep.
Yeah, that's actually that's very mature of you to say.
Yeah, love something even for its faults, and that means you love it even more than those other people.
I mean, I'm right about Bleach. Another one I can go for is Claymore. Claymore has massive fucking flaws, and I will talk about that show all day. I love it. Manga.
What's like honest? I just rewatched Darling in the Franxx, or actually, I just finished watching it because I only ever got to the first part originally. But I loved it, and I can
People
understand.
hate Darling in the Franxx.
And I was about to say, people hate the ending for it.
Yeah, they hate
I
Darling in the
totally
Franxx. It's
understand it.
controversial. It's
But I'm one of those that was like, you know what, it's all right.
I thought it was good.
It was,
I watched the whole
I
thing.
was okay with it.
Yeah, but I'm also like, I feel like, not to insult either of us today, but I feel like you and I are like brain dead watching.
I agree.
Like we're like monkeys watching this screen, like it's enjoyable. Ooh. And then everybody else like, you didn't understand the symbolism that they ruined there in that scene.
I know exactly what you're talking about because when we watched in Log On, the fucking attachments I had to Kamina.
Yeah,
and I was just like, I'm done. Don't want to watch this
it's like
anymore.
we're not going super deep into it, which is why it's nice when like to have Pythes or someone back there was like, oh yeah, but you didn't notice this, or it's like, what about the historical attachments? It's like, oh, okay, cool. Because otherwise, I'm just like, did me, Sam, Monkey Brain, enjoy what I watched on the screen? Yes, no. Here's why.
Circle one, yes.
Yes.
Guy with blue hair, teal eyeliner, fucking fantastic.
Black Monster did purple Sero. Love
Even
it.
better. Misaki, kind of cute.
Yeah, love it. Fantastic.
I
And
totally
that's
just realized I butchered her name.
whatever.
Whatever.
Fuck it.
Like, I can go for the philosophy as much as I want in the history. Sometimes I just like Grimjow because I think he's cool.
Yeah, I think that's an
He's
important
a
thing to
fucking
remember.
badass.
You can enjoy something just because it's enjoyable. It
Mhm.
doesn't. Not everything has to change the world.
Yeah, I agree.
Like one of my favorite fights is Baragon versus Soyphone, and that's just because he's a big skeleton man who's fighting a woman with a nuke at him. I like Stark the most because he's a cowboy.
Yeah. I mean,
The symbolism,
Stark was badass and got unjust treatment.
Thank you.
yeah, like the symbolism of he's the whole loneliness. You got all that thing. He and his gun are the same. Yeah, whatever. I like it when he go pew pew.
You see this? I summon a pack of wolves, motherfucker.
It's so cool.
That's all you need. All right, let's call it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for listening. Of course, we do appreciate you guys. We'll be back again next week on Saturday. I actually got the last episode up on Sunday because it took me so long to edit. It was almost like 2.5 hours.
Oh, that was a long one.
And that was just the raw video, so it really took me about 5 hours to finish that. So we'll see when this one comes up. It'll be on the weekend sometime, though, I promise you. So make sure you guys, of course, to subscribe. Make sure you're followed, whatever it is, on wherever you're listening or watching, to make sure you know when the next one comes up. Of course, make sure you're following us on Instagram and on Twitter. I always post on those things when a new video goes live, so that is the best place. And if you're not already, join the Discord. With that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching. That was Bleach Boys. We'll be back for episode 13 and the final episode of Bleach Cour 1. Bye, everybody.